What's up, guys? Swift here. Tonight I wanted to talk a bit about the guys on this roster with the most to prove heading into 2023. I did a quick update on Darnell Mooney earlier today and made me think it's a good time to talk about what players on this roster are on the proverbial hot seat heading into this season. I think there are quite a few players on this roster that have a lot to prove, and today I want to talk a bit about all of them. This is a huge season for the Chicago Bears. It's a new era, and some of these guys won't be here next year, so let's get right into it. First up, we'll start with the offense. This is a big year for a lot of players, and I don't want you guys to think every one of these guys is in a make or break year, but everyone has a lot to play for. This regime isn't going to just hand over a starting job to anyone, and every player will constantly be pushed by guys on the roster behind them. First up is Chase Claypool. I view him as the most physically gifted receiver we've had since Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall. He's physically imposing with a freakish set of skills. Ryan Poles just traded a high second round pick for Claypool, and I don't think he's going to just let him walk away for nothing. That being said, Claypool was not productive here last season and needs to prove himself worthy of an extension. I'm expecting a big year from Chase Claypool, but I think even if he doesn't have a huge season, he's worth keeping around. He should only get better the more comfortable he gets in this offense and the more time he has to build chemistry with Justin Fields. The next guy I wanted to talk about is Cole Kmet, who's coming off a breakout season. He had his best year of his career last season, and he was a valuable receiving option and a good blocker. I think Kmet deserves an extension. His best football is ahead of him, and he continues getting better. That being said, Poles did bring in some competition with Robert Tonyan, so he has insurance should Kmet regress or get hurt this year. Poles did not draft a tight end, though, and I think it's safe to say that Kmet should get an extension, possibly even before the season. Also, since he hasn't quite broken into the top tier of tight ends yet, he could come at a relative discount as well. I'm all for Cole Kmet getting a new deal. Okay, now let's talk about the offensive line for a moment. I love both of the next two players I'm going to talk about and expect big things out of both guys, but I have to be honest. They need to play well in 2022 in order to retain their starting jobs. First up is Tevin Jenkins. Longtime fans know how much I love Tev. He's one of my favorite players on this roster, but through 2 seasons, he's yet to find a permanent position or prove he can stay healthy. He's entering year 3 of his 4-year deal, so he has time to turn it around and earn an extension. But if Tev gets hurt this year or underperforms, he would then be entering the final year of his contract with a ton of question marks. He will move full-time to left guard this year. It'll be his 5th position move in the last 4 years. He's played right tackle, left tackle, back to right tackle, then moved to right guard, and is now a left guard. Tev was our best lineman last year when healthy. I don't think there's much to argue about there. He was our tone setter and had a big season at right guard before getting hurt. I expect Tev to have another big year at left guard this season, but if he doesn't, his future in Chicago could face some questions. Tev has all the potential in the world to be a Pro Bowl left guard this season and going forward. I'm rooting for Tev as much as anyone this year. Next up on the offensive line is Braxton Jones. Let me be clear here, Braxton has done nothing but outperform expectations as a 5th-round rookie from Southern Utah so far. The reason I'm talking about him today is his starting job at left tackle, not his position on the roster. I think Braxton takes a major step forward this season and could even potentially be a top 10 tackle in the NFL. He was a top 10 tackle last year when it comes to run blocking. His athleticism and movement skills in the run game and screen game are just awesome. His biggest weakness was his inability to deal with NFL bull rushers last season. It's something Braxton is aware of, and he's been working on all offseason. Not only adding some bulk and strength, but also improving his technique versus the bull rush. Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins, along with Jatari Carter, were also doing some Pilates this offseason to improve their balance and flexibility. I have to talk about Braxton though because he plays left tackle, one of the most important positions in the offense. If for whatever reason he doesn't improve this year as a pass blocker, I think Poles and company would have no choice other than to bring in some competition. He already brought in Cincinnati's massive left tackle as an undrafted free agent, and we also have Larry Borom and Alex Leatherwood who can play left tackle as well. On top of that, Poles did bring in international left tackle Roy Mbadaka, so the onus is on Braxton to get better this year. I think he has a big year and potentially gives us bookend tackles for the foreseeable future. I'm a big fan of Braxton Jones. As far as make or break years though, Cody Whitehair would definitely fall under that category. If he struggles at center, his days in Chicago are likely numbered. Same with Lucas Patrick, who's in the last year of his deal anyway. I don't see either one of those guys sticking around too much longer. They're merely band-aid options this season. Larry Borom, Alex Leatherwood, and a lot of the backups on the offensive line also have a lot to prove if they want to be Bears long term. Deontay Foreman is here on a one-year deal in a very crowded running back room. He would have to win the job and impress if he wants any chance at signing an extension. I didn't mention Darnell Mooney, but he's also one of those guys, but I don't want to waste too much time on him because I talked about him earlier. Mooney needs to have a big year if he wants to get a big money extension. I will also mention Justin Fields. I don't think it's a make or break season for him at all. This is year 3. He has a 5-year deal. I think Justin proved last year that he's a rare talent in this league at the quarterback position that is capable of elevating his teammates to a higher level of play. He needs to improve this year as a passer and continue developing. But I have as much faith in Justin Fields as any player in Bears history. If he does not improve this year, I think the competition could be brought in next year, and then it might be a make or break season for him, depending on if they pick up his 5th-year option or not. But to me, Fields is just too talented. I expect a monster year from QB number 1. Okay, now let's get to the defense. The defensive line is full of guys who just need to make an impact if they want to stick around. First on the list is Trevis Gibson. He's not a Poles guy. Some people think he fits better in a 3-4, but he showed a ton of potential early in his career. He's been on the Bears for 3 years after coming in as a 5th-round pick. He didn't play much as a rookie, but then flashed in year 2 when Khalil Mack got hurt. He had 7 sacks on the year and only 9 starts. Then last year we changed defenses, and Trevis actually led our entire defensive line in sacks with 3. He also led our team in pressures with 30, but most of his pressures didn't end in sacks. His production was hurt because we didn't have much talent around him on the defensive line. That can be said for every defensive lineman that played last year. But that being said, Trevis was our best player last year on the D-line, at least as far as getting after quarterbacks. He graded out terribly against the run and will have to battle for a starting job this season. Trevis is in the last year of his contract, so it's safe to say if he doesn't bounce back this year, he will likely be playing for someone else in 2024. The same can also be said about last year's free agent addition, Justin Jones. He was the guy Poles pivoted to after the Larry Ogunjobi failed physical. Jones wasn't awful last year. He was credited with 27 pressures and 3 sacks according to PFF, so he was our second most productive player on the D-line. Both Justin Jones and Trevis Gibson's production went down after Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith were traded away. This defense lacked talent down the stretch, coupled with injuries to almost the entire secondary and our top linebacker Jack Sanborn, and the production dip from the defensive line is to be expected. That being said, Poles drafted 3 defensive tackles and signed Andrew Billings in this year's free agency. The writing is on the wall for Justin Jones as far as this being his last season in Chicago. He will need to have a big year if he wants any shot at coming back next year. If you ask me, I think his starting job is at risk, My preferred starters at DT this year would be Jervon Dexter at 3 tech and Andrew Billings at the nose. Speaking of Andrew Billings, he only signed a 1-year deal, so he needs to have a big year if he wants to come back as well. He's a massive run stuffer who immediately upgrades our defensive line. I think if he buys into the Hits philosophy, we could end up signing Billings to an extension. Sometimes these 1-year deals pay off, but with 3 defensive tackles being drafted, the odds aren't likely. I like Billings, and I think he could be a mainstay on this line for years as a run stuffer if the price is right. With our 3 defensive tackles all being on rookie deals, we have plenty of money to get an extension done with Billings if he plays like I think he's capable of this season. Then we get to DeMarcus Walker, another guy who's going to have to earn his job in Chicago. I expect him to win a starting job at left defensive end. He signed a 3-year deal worth about $21 million. He's our highest paid player on the defensive line. He's earning starters money, but Poles structured his contract where if he doesn't play well this year, they can easily get out of the contract with only a $4 million dead cap hit next season and still save some money. So while Walker might be our best defensive end right now, if he doesn't live up to the hype, he might not stick around too long. I expect him to start and play well this season. I'm excited to see how he meshes with this defensive line. Rasheem Green also has to prove himself this year. He's on a 1-year deal and basically fighting for a job with Trevis Gibson and Dominique Robinson. If Poles brings in another veteran at defensive end, it's not a good sign for Rasheem's chances at sticking. He has some upside, but he needs to prove it on the field this season. At linebacker, I think everyone needs to bring their A game because the depth at the position means if someone struggles, we have someone else who can come in. Nobody is really on the hot seat as far as linebackers go, though. In the secondary, though, Jalen Johnson is that guy. Possibly more than anyone on the entire roster because he's already entering the final year of his contract, and rumors are he also wants to be one of the highest paid corners in the NFL. He believes he's one of the top guys, and if he has a big year, he will surely want a massive extension. Jalen has been a solid player for 3 years in Chicago, but he hasn't quite developed into a true number 1 cornerback yet. His coverage grades have been far from elite. Last year, he allowed a QB rating of 96.8 when targeted and gave up 15.8 yards per reception. He only had 30 solo tackles on the year and missed 10 tackles. So he missed 25% of his tackles on the year. He has 1 career interception and 2 career forced fumbles. He's also missed games every season, missing 3 as a rookie, 1 in 2021, and another 6 games last season. He started 39 total games over 3 years, and he's been one of the more consistent guys in our secondary, but he hasn't quite lived up to his shut-down cornerback billing. On top of that, Poles has drafted 3 cornerbacks in the last 13 months, adding Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, and Terrell Smith, as well as bringing in youngsters like Jalen Jones, Michael Ojemudia, Josh Blackwell, and Nugget Warren. So Jalen Johnson might have as much to prove as anyone on this list, especially if the rumors of him wanting a big-time contract are true. One thing is clear, though. Ryan Poles has protected himself if Jalen does end up leaving next year. I think he has a lot of potential to be a number 1 corner in this league, or at worst, a very good number 2 corner. The biggest issue for me are his lapses in coverage, the missed tackles, and the lack of turnovers. If you aren't getting interceptions and you're missing tackles, you better be shutting down opposing receivers, and so far he just hasn't done that. I wouldn't bet against Jalen, though. He has a ton of talent, and recent videos of his offseason workouts look very promising. JJ is a guy who is on the proverbial hot seat, though. Quickly, I will mention Eddie Jackson. I think he's safe, but if he's slow to recover from injury or he has a down year, Who knows what would happen next year? We have 2 first-round picks, remember that. The other guy really on the hot seat is Kendall Vildor, whose job is in serious jeopardy. Both Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith will be battling for that starting spot opposite of JJ, so Vildor is in trouble. Lastly, I think Cairo Santos could be on the hot seat as well, but it depends on how undrafted rookie Andre Smith performs in camp. That's it for tonight, guys. I'm back at work on my Zach Pickens All 22 video. Please remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down. Thanks for watching Swift Sports.